Excel, and then you could link a table through AutoCAD to that Excel file, format it in AutoCAD to make it look nice, and then re-import it back into Revit. A lot of people do that.
Can we just make it look nice in Excel?
I mean, yeah, because we're not typically issuing schedules on sheets.
Right.
We're typically doing it in either 8.5 by 11 or 1 by 17.
Yeah,
absolutely.
That's a good point.
Spec book usually.
Absolutely, yeah. You can just export it right out into Excel and make it look very good there. That's a good point. You're not using it in the same way. Okay. Easy enough. R pull down, export, schedule. Okay. Yeah. But this is nice. So that bidirectional control.
Sorry, counting twice.
I'm going to change it to an F7. Because I only had one of them in the project, it's not a problem. Control Tab. Another shortcut, you can have multiple windows open, remember? Hit WT. I have all my windows tiled at one time. I can work in multiple views. Anybody have 2 monitors going? This is nice because you can drag views over to your other monitor.
Where did you take WT?
WT. You can't do it from a schedule.
Yeah, I
can't do it. Control Tab, Robin, will get you over to a drawing view, and then you can.
Yes.
What is their? This is not me interested. But just, I wonder why the reasoning is between keeping all these views open every time.
It's very strange because I've seen people before who will have 20 and 30. 20 views open. They don't realize that they have it open, but the computer's slowed significantly. It's because it's monitoring, processing all those views. It's refreshing. Basically, it's refreshing every view as a user is making changes. So it's tough.
Is there a button that you click somewhere under one of the ribbons that's close all screens?
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So off of your view tab, and we'll get into the ribbons a bit more. View. And you can hit close hidden windows. If you're in one, if you've maximized one, you can close hidden. And that switch windows, that's the same thing as doing Control T and tab or Control Tab. Tabs you through all of your open windows.
And what did WT stand for?
Window tile. That's the thing that just showed you all of your open windows. Sure. That's a very, very helpful one. I like to use that often. If I'm doing a particular task that maybe requires me being in plan, section, and elevation all at once, it's nice having all the views open and cycling through. And
is there a keyboard command to close all hidden windows?
No. Yep. But if anybody wants to, and I wouldn't worry about this. There was some talk about maybe standardizing this. I don't think it's as critical. Under View tab, User Interface, Keyboard shortcuts. Each and every user can have their own keyboard shortcut.
Can I make a keyboard shortcut to hide all windows?
Yep. It's always going to be 2 letters. I don't believe you can have numbers or symbols. It has to be just 2 letters. So when you do a command, you just do those 2 letters. You don't have to hit spacebar or anything. It just.
I assume it tells you if it's already been taken.
Correct. You actually see a list of available commands and then key assignments.
Okay.
Yeah. Let's just roll through really quickly. I'm going to not belabor this too much. Quick. I'm going to copy that light fixture only because I want to show you how changing the type mark affects it. Select that light fixture. We're going to type CO.
Sorry, before we move on, can you just explain, or if we're going to go over this later, what all this stuff is?
Oh, yes. So that is really, it's data. It's sitting underneath. There's a connector that is carrying the wattage information, things like that. And ultimately the engineer will wire too when they're doing the circuiting. So that's all circuiting information.
Okay. So can we modify what it shows?
This really can.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the fixture type could be something that it shows. So
Absolutely.
That we don't have to tag everything. I mean, I know that you have to tag it in order for it to show up on the sheet, but at least if we click on it, we could see it without.
Yeah, it's interesting. You can actually, without having anything selected, you can hover over it.
Oh. Oh, but it doesn't tell us
Doesn't tell you the type.
the type.
Yeah, that's the only thing.
But what if we had it named that way?
If you had it named that way. So select that light fixture and type CO. It's for copy. CO. Left click in the center, more or less. That's to set the base point for a copy.
Oh,
And then left click to end it. What's
yeah. I
so?
think I know what you can do.
You got it?
The distance thing?
Oh yeah. So yeah, you can type in a distance right now if you wanted to. Revit thinks in feet, not inches. Okay, so if I type right now, if I type 5, it's going to do 5 feet. If I do 5 and enter, it'll do 5 feet. If I want 5 inches, I type 5 and then the inch symbol, then
So
enter.
you don't have to type the foot symbol.
No, at default. So I'm just going to hit 5 and hit enter, and it copies down a version. Did anyone watch the schedule change at the same time as I was doing that?
Oh.
Yep. Okay, let's go back to our schedule, and then where I have the type mark, I'm going to change that to be an F3. Hit enter. There we go, it just changed all of them in one shot. Okay. What's cool too is you can select a fixture in your plan. Okay, go over to your properties bar, and you can change by clicking on, there's a top drop down on the top of the properties bar. Let's change that to being another type quickly. I'm going to change this to being a cylindrical pendant.
So if I have the schedule open next to it, I can add my fixture types there
You got it.
instead of going into type.
You got it.
Edit type.
Yep. Yeah, it's that nice thing about being bi-directional. Either doing it from the schedule or the long takes so long.
Right. You can just.
Also, if you look at it, it'll also highlight red what that type is,
Yeah.
Yes.
Yes.
which I just found out.
Yes. Oh, and say that one more time.
So I have 2 types in. If you click on one of them, it'll highlight
It'll
red
highlight
what that
all of
type
those.
Yeah.
is.
Oh, nice.
So
The other interesting thing, hover over, say, click in your schedule over one of your types. Right click. That's not giving it to me. Top of the screen, hit delete. So if I'm hovering right here, hovering over my type mark, I can right click and hit delete rows. Watch this. Watch the lighting fixtures here. Delete rows. It deleted geometry. Okay, so you have to be cautious of that. You can actually control your lighting fixtures from this place. And if you want to delete them, let's say all of a sudden you're taking all of a sudden type out. You just value engineered. You know? Yeah.
You say $1 million.
But I will say what I have used before, and it is helpful that a lot of times on projects we do that. We, in our mind, said, well, this last meeting we deleted all F5s, and our team goes through and we do that, but there's still F5 shown on the floor plan
Yep.
of the ground level, and we just missed it. This at least tells us whether or not we still have something in there somewhere.
You got it.
So,
Do it in one shot, you clean the whole thing up.
yeah.
Yeah.
So basically the schedule, it's just data.
Got
So
it.
we can sort this however we want. So we could
Got
even
it.
sort it by level,
got
by room.
You got it. You got it.
Wow.
Yeah.
We're only if the room data is in
Question,
there.
Yeah.
while we're talking about
Well, like the
copying
room is there.
fixtures,
Well,
in
there has
reading
to
the
be
Revit
something.
book that we have, it made a comment saying that you can copy fixtures like on the same floor, but when you go floor to floor, they said to do make similar. Is that because you don't want to copy annotation, or?
No, you know, that's funny. What to make similar.
I think similar would be like making a new fixture.
Yeah. It's interesting. You can copy from floor to floor to floor very easily.
That's what I thought, and now when I read that, it just was a bit, I thought it was a bit confusing. Is it just,
Thanks for, yeah, it's kind of Yeah, not really. There's an easier way.
Okay.
There is, you could make similar, but it would demand redrawing each fixture location. Rather than if it's like a typical floor plan, you're just copying it up, there's an easier way.
And I think I kind of remember from Biogen, I know Vera and I, well, we used to work in her office, she was saying, it's something about you want to copy the fixture but not the tag.
Mm-hmm.
The tags are visible, you don't want to copy the tag, just the fixture.
That's correct.
And is that, can you clarify why?
Yeah, because I did that a lot.
Yeah, well, you can grab both at the same time, and you can copy them around. So I'm just going to go to my annotate and tag by category. Take the leader off. Sorry, we need to customize this. There we go. So there's a tag on your F3. You can, and there's no reason not to, select both. Hit CO. And up here, by the way, if you want to copy multiple, everyone, that's a weird little checkbox at the top. Select the base point and start copying them around. There's no problem with that, of selecting the fixture and the tag at the same time.
Okay.
And it just occurred to me, your create similar thing. If you're in a floor plan and you don't want to have to go seek out that light fixture either in this really cumbersome family tree or finding it over here, you can just select that fixture, right click, and hit create similar. That may be what the book was talking about. You can hit create similar and just on the fly, if you already have one of it in your project, you just say, okay. You don't have to go seek it out here or seek it out in that big
When
drop
you
down.
create similar, say that fixture type's F3, is it going to make it an F3
Yes.
or is it going to make a different fixture type?
Same F3. It's going to say, okay, you want to, rather than having to hit copy and copy it around, you can just say, oh, I just want to create similar.
Okay.
Yeah.
On a side note, I love where the tags go, by the way.
Yeah.
Instead of on top of the fixture.
Cool.
Great
Cool.
starting.
Awesome.
That's just insane. And we got about 8 minutes more for this kind of session for stuff that we wanted to
Excellent.
cover, so.
Okay. Let's do, I want to get through this last bit here for views. VG, we didn't get into the ribbons quite as much as I would like to, but ribbons, are they semi-familiar to everyone? We'll get into where the tools reside on the ribbons here in a little bit, just in how we're using it. But more so views, because views are just absolutely fundamental to the way that Revit's working. You know, you're slicing up this prototype, and you're looking at it different ways. You have to filter out what you want to see in a view and what you don't want to see in a view. Let's go into our project browser. That level 1 lighting plan that we have open, I want you to right-click on that and hit duplicate. And there's a duplicate flyout. We're going to hit duplicate with detailing. And do a window tile. Okay, you just made a copy of that view. It's independent now. And it has its own view controls. Okay, everything, you can change it. Now, let's go to those plans. I'm going to select one of my lighting fixtures and the tag. And look, as I move it, it of course is moving in the other view. Because Revit is looking at the same object, it's just in a different view. Okay? In one of those plan views, I want you to type VG. This is, I keep using these biological terms, the central nervous system for a view's control of how things are seen in a model. Okay, let's talk about model categories. How do you slice up the built world into categories? You know, we have columns, we have floors, we have furniture, we have lights, we have ducts. You have to have model categories, okay? And that's really what's shown here in this very, very, very basic VG interface. VG, and it has several tabs on it, It has model categories, annotation categories. We'll ignore the next two. It has filters, which we won't really use too much. When we start linking models in, you can also control which model categories show up in a linked model. That will show up here as well. We're not going to worry about that. In the Model Categories tab, let's scroll down to Lighting Fixtures. Okay? Highlight Lighting Fixtures. Go over to the third column, or the fourth column from the right. See there's a halftone checkbox? Click that. And we're going to hit OK. Look at that. They're half-toned in just that one view. Okay, this is a great example of maybe a working view where, yeah, you want something to be half-toned and not showing up as intensely, but it still resides in the project. Okay? It's still the same fixture, right, as you're seeing in the other views, but you're just looking at it a different way.
Sorry, Peter, where's the view, the VG?
You can just type VG.
Oh, just type it.
Yeah. That's probably the easiest way from a plan. Oh, it's asking you to save quickly.
Okay.
There you go. Scroll down to lighting fixtures, and then there will be a, once you highlight that, and then go check the checkbox for half toning. For that matter, you can make all the light fixtures red or blue. You can just control them in this one view. Isn't that cool? You're looking at the same, you can look at the same things multiple ways. It's especially helpful when we're in the plans, where we maybe have RCPs of varying heights. You know, that's helpful.
So you could even, from a color perspective, we can create diagrams that show all of the ceilings that are 9 feet, all of the ceilings that are 10 feet. Those can have different colors.
Correct.
So from a visual perspective, I don't know why we present that to our clients, since usually they want to dictate ceilings, but
What could be useful for internally?
sure, no, exactly. I think that's
You got it. Great usage. Yeah, that's a really good example. I've never heard of that being proposed. That's phenomenal usage for it. Yeah. Sometimes if you want to show a lot more of our engineers in this for circuiting, they'll have some design views where they'll want to show all the light fixtures that are on the same circuit to be the same color.
It would
Sure.
actually be good for us to
be good for types.
same
Be good, okay.
zones.
Okay, cool. Oh, so we should get into a little bit of circuiting and zones.
if we can go over how to do like a zoning control
Okay.
yeah, diagram.
Like
Okay.
zoning diagrams.
You got it. Yeah, you got it.
Where
Okay.
did you change the color?
So what you could do is you could do that through VG again.
In design.
VG, go down to here are lighting fixtures. We half-toned it, right? But let's say instead, when you have it highlighted, you see how there are two little boxes for override? Two columns that are there. One are just the lines that represent like 2D lines, and the other one are patterns. If it had like a hatch on it or something, you change that. But hit override for the lines column. And we're going to change that color to, say, I'm going to do a blue. There we are. It's filtering.
Oh, and it's half tone.
And it's
You didn't
half-toned. You can un-half-tone it.
There you go.
Yep, absolutely. There's VG. Let's do the hiding quickly. We temporary hide isolate. Click on a fixture. Okay, go down to your sunglasses and hit hide element. There it is. It's out of your way, maybe. You know, maybe you're trying to get a certain, you're doing lighting zones, control zones, and you want to isolate just one control zone at a time. You may go the opposite direction and say, okay, I'm selecting a fixture, sunglasses, isolate element. Okay? So, that's one way of doing it. This is temporary. If you close Revit and you reopen it, it will be restored. Okay? To get it back, you go to your sunglasses, reset temporary hide isolate. Reset temporary hide isolate.
What if you by accident hit apply? Can you get it back? Or
Oh, to
I hit apply and that took away the turquoise.
Okay.
It won't let me reset now.
Oh, did you were you selecting fixtures and right clicking on them and saying hide?
No.
No?
No, I did. I just did what we went through. I clicked, went to the sunglasses, did hide element, but then I did sunglasses apply, and the turquoise disappeared, and now I can't get it back.
Do a quick undo.
Okay. So you can't hit apply.
That's right.
Okay.
Yeah, that's a good distinction. And that's actually something I haven't really used a whole lot of. That's what Dan clicked me. That hide isolate, the apply hide isolate to view, I think is controlling. It's tied back into VG. It's saying, no, you were meaning to hide all of your light fixtures permanently. My apologies. I hadn't actually. I've never really used that feature before. What had happened there, everyone, was is that this apply hide isolate to view. My guess is that ties into VG, and you just turned off all light fixtures. But reset temporary hide isolate here. You click that, and they're all back. Okay. What I think could happen is if you go into VG, I can uncheck lighting fixtures here. Uncheck it. Look at that. They still reside in the project. They're still there. They're just being filtered out of this view. You know, you'll do the same. Sometimes you want to see furniture, sometimes you don't. You're not going to pick up the furniture and hit delete. You're just going to say, out of this view, I don't want to see furniture. Which is, by the way, it's a model category right here, right? If you don't see your furniture, it's because you need to check show categories from all disciplines, which is going to include more architectural. Hit show categories from all disciplines, and then you will see things like furniture. Okay. We were talking about hiding versus filtering. Scale control is very, very easy. One of the nice things about Revit is that as you change the scale of a view, your annotation also changes. Everyone, that's so nice and easy, right? You no longer have to worry about the things that you did in AutoCAD. You click on that scale icon in the lower left of the view, and you can immediately change it. In my case, I'm going to change this to be 1/4 inch. Look at that. My symbology stays relatively the same, but my annotation changes automatically. This works for dimensions, absolutely everything throughout Revit. Revit's really good. I don't know why AutoCAD can't do this, but Revit's always thinking annotation is always in paper space mode. So text is all, if you want 3 32nd inch tall aerial throughout the project, it always is showing 3 32nd inch tall aerial, no matter what the scale. And it knows how to resize it. Scale control, cropping views. Remember I was talking about this crop region? Look at this, I can drag it over. I can isolate just that one area. Okay. And then, lastly, let's talk about multiplicity and independence versus dependency. Right now, these two floor plan views are completely independent of one another, right? Each one, you can make the fixtures blue in one and the black in the other. But check this out. If I right-click on my level 1 lighting with furniture, in this case, and I'm going to hit duplicate view, and I'm going to let this flyout go to duplicate as dependent. Duplicate as dependent. Do this twice. Duplicate view. Duplicate as dependent. I'm going to close some of my other plan views just so I don't get mixed up here. Window tile. This is the beginning of how you start to break up, say if you have a large floor plate building and you have to make smaller pieces of it with match lines, things like that. Notice how in the project browser, it made these two secondary views like sub-views of the parent view, okay? That's because the parent view is going to govern everything. If I change the scale in the parent view, I'm going to use familial terms here, parent and children relationships. This parent view, if I change the scale, it's going to change also in those child views. See that? But I can go into any one of these children views and crop it.
So would this be if you just had a plan that's too large to fit on one?
You got it. Exactly right. Yep. And see, you actually have those sub views. Actually, you have a representation of those actually shown on the parent view, which is nice. Isn't that neat? So no more, assembling XREFs for different pieces of a building and things like that. Now it's more so the other way of breaking it up into manageable pieces so that you don't kill your computer trying to process the whole thing. Let's do a quick Q&A for a few minutes. I know it's nearly, we're over just by, we're probably, yeah, we'll do it later.
No, we started later.
Oh, we started later, that's right. We're back by a half hour. So, that's great. Any questions so far?
I've got a list, but
Do we have time to just go through the ribbons quickly and
Sure. Yeah.
let's just go through those
Okay.
very, very fast? So the ribbons, that's a common thing that's in a lot of software right now. It's driven by Microsoft, Adobe, Autodesk. Many of them are adhering to these standards. Your Home tab for Revit MEP contains your most basic tool set. These are the things that you're going to use on a day-to-day basis. Except as lighting designers, you're really only using a very, very small piece of this. And it's lighting fixtures, which are all the way to the right, probably on your screen. You'll have lighting fixtures here. And you can start drawing a lighting fixture by, if you clicked on this icon, it would pick your last fixture type that you had used, and it would allow you to start placing that fixture. The Home tab is really not all that incredibly useful. I find more so that, especially when I'm doing, if I'm doing lighting work, is that you're using the other tabs much, much more. The Insert tab, there are a few important things here. First is Link Revit. Okay, linking Revit is basically externally referencing another Revit file in. I think most of everyone's everyone's nodding that you all have dealt with this tab before. Linking Revit. This is very different than importing. And I want to make a clear thing. Importing, it makes it native, whereas linking it keeps it external, like an external reference, and it can be updated. Linking CAD is like X-referencing in CAD. DWF markups, anybody using those? Oh, phenomenal tool. Really like the DWF markups. I'll show you how to utilize those. DWF is Autodesk's version of the PDF. But you can do these neat underlays. So if anybody is interested in trying to do electronic markups, maybe in between offices, things like that, You can make a DWF of a sheet, and then you can do a DWF underlay, and actually underlays all the markups right there on screen. It's really helpful. Yeah, it's great for sharing with other teams out there in the world too. As long as they have, it works better for internally because you need the same sheet set. But decal, not as critical. Point cloud, not as critical. Manage links. That's like your XREF manager. That really is the place where you're going to control when you reload a file. Unfortunately, Revit doesn't automatically reload. You have to manually reload. For better or for worse. The reason is it's a memory issue. Revit files are just so hard on the computer, they can't be in constant reload. It would just fry the computer. Interestingly enough, there's a little line after manage links where we actually get into importing. Importing CAD, you should really never use this within a project. You don't want to bring CAD files directly in and make them native as much as possible. The reason being, it messes up your line types and it does a variety of things. It just kind of pollutes your drawings to a degree, pollutes the project. Importing GBXML, not sure if anyone's doing any energy analysis with GBXMLs. I don't think too many people are.
What is it?
It's a file that was Green Building Studio. Have you heard of this? Green Building Studio. Basically it was Autodesk's version of a before they bought Ecotect. It was for their energy analysis, things like that. It was entirely online that you would have this energy analysis done on a project. And it would create this file type called or you'd actually export a GBXML rather than import. You'd export a GBXML and then you'd upload to this website and it would analyze the project. And I'm not so sure it really became the industry standard if they were hoping that it would. But it's a GB for Green Building Studio or something like that. Something that they had purchased since they're absorbing the world. If you want to insert an image, Revit is actually pretty good at handling images. Images use them
Non-to schedule.
the non-to schedule, which is so disappointing, right?
Which is where I want my image, yeah.
Yeah, and you and everyone else. I do have a workaround. You can't schedule it, but you can do a legend. Where you have to draw your own lines and everything.
Which doesn't seem worth it.
But can you do a template of the legend?
You could, but it wouldn't necessarily. You wouldn't be able to track like lighting fixture types and counts within that, which is unfortunate.
So we'd still be better off exporting it.
Yeah. Legends are nice in terms of a view type because it can be used over and over and over in a project on as many sheets as you want. Revit won't let you utilize, once you drag a view onto a sheet, it can't be utilized anywhere else in the project because it's tracking where that view resides. But a legend can. If you have a general notes, I'm thinking more from a documentation standpoint from an architect or an MEP engineer. You know, they'd have a series of general notes potentially that they're using over and over on sheets. You'd make a legend out of that. But anyway, images are fairly well handled in Revit. They can be on sheets, they can be in views. In the case of a nifty little thing that Michael actually had developed out there in LA is this HLB processes, which is a legend. You double click on that, it actually has some images built into it. This is these are some processes to be vetted by the group, but best practices for sure. If you ever need to refer to it, this is a good place to do it, just for a process. But this has some images that are embedded. I'm going to close that view. We can revisit that at a later time. Also, off of the Insert tab, you have the Load family. Okay? Let's say you've created a family type externally from your project and you want to load that family in, that's where you would do it, from the Insert tab. Let's jump through the next tab to the right. It's called the Annotate tab. This is your 2D world. Views can carry all annotation. Okay? So if you want annotation to show up in the same way in a number of different views, you have to copy that annotation from view to view to view. It's basically view specific. If you dimension a plan, you know, where your lighting fixtures are relative to walls, it's only going to show up in that one view. Okay? So if you want that annotation to show up multiple times, you have to manually copy that. Or if you're doing text, anything that would be showing up here is view specific, just as one view. Okay? This is the thing of why we have a documentation view type versus just the design ones. In the design ones, you probably won't have any tags. You don't have to have any tags because it's never outputted. It's only there just for you to keep it straight in your head. It's in the documentation viewports and views that you have all of your annotation, and you don't want it to ever move either. So they're kind of locked down and frozen.
But then that goes back to the outside of the picture types are.
Yeah. Yeah, in your design views, you may want to have, you can very quickly, check this out. Select a fixture tag, right click, watch this. Select all instances visible in view, and I'm just going to hit delete just to clean them off quickly. You can select all of them in a project too, if you want to. And it's, for better or for worse, you could delete everything in a project very quickly. But look at your Annotate tab, and we're going to tag all. Tag all. Hit tag all, I'm going to go down to lighting fixture tags.
How did you delete the fixture tag?
I selected one, right-clicked, and hit select all instances, visible in view, and then hit delete. So it's annotation, you're just deleting the tag. No consequence to the rest of the project. But you go to your Annotate tab, you hit tag all, okay? And you scroll down to lighting fixture tags, select it, and hit OK. And it tags them all. Now, I wish, Michael, I could do the offset, whether it's at 1/4 inch or at 1/8, but I can't. As you can see here, I changed my scale to 1/4.
Oh.
And so it's overlapping. So you will have to manually move these. Well, this is nice. You can right-click, select all instances, visible in view. And this is nice. In Revit, your arrow keys can move geometry. So watch this. I'll move them all at one time.
But is it only changing that view, or is it changing all of your views?
It's changing this in this one view.
One view.
Yep.
But if you click in the entire project, it'll change all of it.
You got it. Yeah, so you can change them all at one time. So you're able to tag everything all at one time, which is very helpful. Off of your Annotate tab, variety of things. This is where you'll do dimensioning. Check this out. Aligned dimension. Shortcut for dimension is DI. DI. Let's dimension between two fixtures. So we'll start our dimension command. In most things in Revit, you have to select the object first and then start the command. Dimensioning does not work that way. You start the dimension command, just like in AutoCAD. In this case, I'm just going to put a dimension on these two fixtures. Left click to start. Now look at this. See, it won't allow me to drop the dimension. I've created the dimension between these two light fixtures, but it's asking me to, if I want to do any more references. To stop the dimension, I left click in space, and that drops the dimension. Okay? Everyone get that? And hit escape here. Dimensions are so important because if you click on that fixture that's referenced by a dimension, look what happens to the dimension. It turns blue. Watch this. You can drive geometry with a dimension. See? Everyone able to do that? And in my case too, my fixtures are a little out of line with one another. Type AL. This is the alignment tool. Probably one of the neatest commands out there, AL. I'm going to first select the object that I want to align to. In this case, I'm going to align to this F3 that's up in my upper right. I'm going to highlight the horizontal bar in that fixture. Left click, and now I'm going to highlight the horizontal bar in the offending F3 over here in the left. Left click, and it locks those two, or aligns those two together. See that nifty little lock symbol there? You can lock that down so that they always move together. You hit lock. Look at this. You move one, it moves the other, and vice versa. Isn't neat? So dimensions are really critical in Revit because you can drive your geometry. Let's say you're aligning to a ceiling grid. I use that align command all the time. Really a helpful tool.
So I'm not trying to change the dimension. And every time I try clicking the box, it's bringing up a dimension text box.
Awesome. This is the text override. This is I think an AutoCAD thing. We want to, for some reason, click on the dimension to change the objects. It's the other way around. You select the objects that are being referenced, and then the dimension highlights. Here's the thing, Robin, with that is think if you overrode that dimension, it wouldn't know, which object you wanted to move.
Right.
Is that interesting? But that is how you override a dimension if you want to. Or if you want to add a prefix or a suffix, is you double click on that dimension.
Now, what if two fixtures are aligned already?
Okay.
But we didn't touch the lock thing to keep them always on. Can we type align again and then
You can.
lock the two fixtures?
You can, yep, exactly. Yeah. Use the locking sparingly.
But for instance, my fixtures are currently 5 feet 4 inches on center, and I want to move both of them so that they're 6 feet on center. I can lock it, and then I could unlock it.
You can. Exactly right. Exactly right. So that's another thing. This dimension here, you can click on that dimension, and that also has a lock functionality on it. So you can always maintain a spacing of 14 feet if you wanted to. Pretty helpful.
But, just curious, if you have a row of fixtures and you start locking, you're trying to keep them all the same, and then if you change one, you want it to change the whole, but isn't there, I just remember trying to do an aligned row, and then I would lock one and I'd lock another, but then I'd try to move the other, and it would bring up a problem.
Yeah, and that actually happened just there to me right now. Is that I was about ready to move a fixture here. MV is your move command. Drop for a base point, and I got an error message down there in the lower right saying, you're trying to move something that's currently locked. Mm-hmm. That's a good point. That's the one downside. You really would hope that the two objects would move together.
So if they are locked, you won't be able to move them.
Yeah, in general, yeah. Actually, if they are locked to one another, you can. But if you've used a dimension, to lock them together, they won't move together. So in the case where I use this 14-foot dimension, here I can unlock this too at a later time. If I've used the dimension to lock two things together, they won't maintain that relationship. You'll just get an error if you try to. However, if you lock the two objects together, then you're good.
Well, I think we're making great progress, and I don't want to stifle that. I would like to try and take 10 minutes really quickly, just for people to catch their breath, go to the bathroom, all of those good things. I know that I should probably call in to the West Coast. But I do want to try and get back here as quickly as possible, because I think that the next portion where we actually talk about starting a project is probably our most critical one. So I want to make sure that we have ample time for that. And we can certainly touch on more of these Revit and things like that.
It'll happen naturally, I'm sure.
Yeah. So I think if we can kind of reconvene in 10 minutes, a little after 3:30, 3:35, it'll be.
Sounds good.
Be good?
Are we pace? Just really fast. Is pace okay? Moving.
I think it's great. I mean, I think we are kind of jumping to things just because it's all intertwined. But I think it's certainly exciting to see a lot of the stuff that we can do out there.
Cool. And it's funny, a lot of these things, yeah, you don't know that the tool is out there
Yeah.
to use it. So, great.